I found the forum because I was bored. And I stayed because I didn't believe a word of it. It called itself a behavioral research collective, tucked 3 link hops deep on a board my coworker Danny had mentioned half-joking one night over beers. The kind of place that makes you create a burner email before you even read the front page. Most of the threads were dull. Surveys about decision fatigue, academic-sounding debates over conformity theory, users arguing citations like it was a grad seminar nobody graded. I lurked for 2 weeks before anyone spoke to me directly, and even then it wasn't dramatic. Just a private message, polite and a little formal. The user was called Field Note 42. Said they'd read my comments on a thread about social mimicry. Said I noticed things most people scroll past. Asked if I wanted access to something more advanced. I remember typing sure and hitting send before I'd really thought about it. Curiosity has a way of skipping past the part of your brain that asks questions. The invite dropped me into a subforum called the Observer Program. No fanfare, no warning label, just a clean, almost corporate layout, like an internal company wiki. The rules were laid out in tidy bullet points, the kind you'd expect from an HR document. Participants are assigned one target. Contact must never be physical. Points are awarded for creating documented discomfort, appearing in a target's peripheral vision at unrelated locations, rearranging small outdoor items, leaving notes referencing private details, parking near a target's residence for measured intervals. There was a leaderboard, usernames next to point totals, little metal icons for top performers. There were case files, dozens of them, PDF folders named with initials and city codes, full of surveillance logs written in flat, clinical language. Subject exited residence at 7:14 a.m. Subject appeared to notice moved patio chair. Discomfort confirmed via posture change. I told myself it was elaborate fiction. Some ARG, some LARP for people with too much free time and a flair for procedural writing. I even admired the commitment. The fake timestamps, the invented-sounding street names that turned out, when I checked, to be real addresses in real cities. I read maybe 30 of these files over a few nights, treating it like true crime content I didn't have to feel guilty about, because none of it could possibly be real. I even messaged Field Note 42 to say so, half-joking. This is a really committed bit. They never replied. I noticed, but I didn't think much of it. People go quiet on those boards all the time. What kept me reading was one case file in particular, a woman in Ohio, 3 months of logs building toward what the notes called escalation approval. The final entry described her sitting in her car outside her own house for 11 minutes before going inside, and beneath it, a single clinical line. Subject displays sustained hypervigilance. Recommend phase 2. I remember closing the laptop that night and telling myself it read too well to be real, that whoever wrote it had studied psychology somewhere, formally or not. I opened it again 20 minutes later anyway. Then at close to 1 a.m. on a Thursday, out of pure habit, I searched my own initials in the case file archive. The folder that came up had my name on it in full, not initials, not a code. Inside were 7 photographs. My apartment building's front entrance, the coffee shop on 9th where I go most Tuesday mornings, the photo taken from across the street through the window glass, my hands wrapped around a paper cup I remembered holding. A screenshot of a conversation I'd had out loud in public with a stranger about my cat, transcribed word for word, like someone had been standing close enough to hear every syllable and far enough to stay invisible. And beneath all of it, a schedule, tomorrow's date, a predicted timeline of my day, hour by hour, that turned out, I checked obsessively all through the next morning, cross-referencing against my own calendar, to be almost entirely correct. I stopped going to the coffee shop. I changed my running route, then stopped running outside at all. I told Danny, and he laughed at first, until I showed him the folder, and then he didn't say much of anything. I moved 4 months later. New city, new lease. My name left off the mailbox on purpose. I told exactly 3 people where I'd gone, and made all 3 promise. 2 weeks after I unpacked the last box, a padded envelope was waiting in my new mailbox. No return address, no postmark I could make sense of. Inside was a single index card, typed in the same flat, procedural font as the case files. Observation period. Day 1. My sister's bakery lost 40% of its regulars in 6 weeks, and nobody could tell her why. It started small, a wave of 1-star reviews claiming health code violations that never happened. Then a fake account impersonating her business page, replying to customer complaints with things she'd never say. Things designed to sound exactly unhinged enough to be believable. She called me crying about it twice before I took it seriously, before I stopped assuming it was one bitter ex-employee with too much time on his hands and started treating it like something coordinated. I found the source by accident, scrolling through a cybersecurity forum where someone had linked, almost as a joke, to a dark web board called the Elimination Game. The premise was simple, and worse for how legal it all sounded laid out on the page. Once a month, an anonymous vote selects an ordinary person, never a celebrity, never anyone with real power, just someone whose life is small enough to be dismantled quietly, piece by piece, without ever crossing a line that would get anyone arrested. Participants pull tasks from a shared spreadsheet, color-coded by difficulty. File a false complaint here. Cancel an appointment there using details scraped from an old data breach. Report a social account for a policy violation it hasn't committed. Call an employer with a concern, worded just carefully enough to sound like due diligence. Nothing illegal on its own. Nothing that would hold up as a single crime if you looked at it in isolation. Just wait, added from 40 directions at once, until something finally breaks. I recognize my sister's bakery in the case file 3 clicks in. Her name at the top, her supplier's name in the notes, a photo of her storefront that had clearly been taken from a parked car across the street, time-stamped weeks before the fake reviews even started, like someone had been building the file before they built the plan. There was a progress bar at the bottom of the page, 61%, the label read, toward objective completion. A comment thread ran beside it, a dozen usernames trading tips like it was a group project. One of them had written, almost cheerfully, "The supplier angle is working better than expected. Keep the pressure there." I did what anyone would do, reported it to the review platform, reported it to a cybercrime tip line, told her to lock down every account she had, and change every password twice. The reviews slowed. The fake page got suspended within a week. For a month I let myself believe it was over, that we caught it early enough, that whoever was behind it had simply moved on to an easier target. My sister started sleeping again. I stopped checking the board every night. That was my mistake, I think, assuming that stopping meant it was finished. Instead of assuming it just meant someone had noticed me watching. Then a new folder appeared on the board, dated the following Tuesday. My name on the header this time, not my sister's. Photos of my apartment's front door, my car in its assigned parking spot, license plate legible. A screenshot of a job application I'd submitted online 4 days earlier, a posting I hadn't told a single living person about, not even my sister. The progress bar under my name read 0%. Someone had already left the first comment. Fresh nomination, easy access, let's move fast on this one. Underneath the photos, one line, formatted like the header of a memo. Nomination accepted. Voting opens Friday. I never found out who ran the board, or whether the man who once messaged me, claiming to be a concerned member, trying to help me protect my sister was real, or just another participant enjoying the game from the inside, feeding me just enough truth to keep me watching. What I do know is that 3 separate voicemails are still sitting on my phone, unplayed after the first listen, all from numbers I don't recognize, all using the correct pronunciation of my landlord's last name, a detail I've never once said out loud to anyone who wasn't already standing inside my apartment. The site called itself the Human Behavior Compliance Archives, and the first thing I noticed was how clean the production looked. No shaky camera work, no amateur lighting, no found footage grain trying too hard to look real. Just static, high-definition footage of blindfolded people in bare, sterile rooms, subjected not to violence, but to something slower and somehow worse. Sleep deprivation logged in an on-screen timer that ticked upward in the corner of the frame. Fabricated rescue announcements played over hidden speakers. Voices promising help was minutes away, then retracted an hour later with no explanation offered. Impossible choices presented between 2 captives at once, discussed calmly by an off-camera narrator while a live chat scrolled beside the feed, strangers placing casual bets on how long each subject would last before compliance. A word the narrator used constantly and never once defined. I told myself it had to be staged. Networks fake worse things and get away with it, and something this polished practically announced itself as fiction dressed up to unsettle. But I kept watching anyway, the way you keep pressing on a bruise just to confirm it still hurts. And I started noticing patterns the more I watched. The way the lighting never changed between videos posted months apart. The way one particular chair reappeared in 3 separate rooms, its legs scuffed in the exact same place. Somewhere around the 6th video, I noticed a maintenance sticker on a support beam, visible for maybe 2 seconds before the camera drifted past it. A city inspection code, half legible, a date stamp, a building type that, once I paused and zoomed and squinted, narrowed things down to industrial zoning in one specific county I'd never had a reason to think about before. I spent an entire weekend cross-referencing satellite images against public warehouse permits, mostly certain I was chasing nothing, that I'd talk myself out of it by Sunday night. Instead, I found it. A shuttered facility outside a town I'd never heard of, the same support beam visible in a leaked construction photo attached to an 8-year-old permit application. I sat with that confirmation for almost an hour before I did anything about it, running through every reason it might still be a coincidence, and finding fewer of them each time. I reported it anonymously through a tip line, sent them everything I had, screenshots and coordinates and the permit number, and told myself that was the end of my involvement. I'd done the responsible thing. I could stop watching now. Local news covered it 3 days later. 4 sentences buried near the bottom of a larger story about a different warehouse fire across town. Evidence of recent unauthorized occupancy. No arrests. The site itself vanished from the dark web within hours of the story running. Every mirror and backup gone at once, as if someone had been watching for exactly this outcome and was ready the moment it arrived. I checked twice a day for a week, refreshing dead links out of some need to be certain, and each time the silence felt less like relief and more like being watched from somewhere I couldn't see. I thought that was where it ended. It wasn't. 6 days later, an encrypted message arrived from an address that resolved to nothing when I tried to trace it, bouncing through servers that didn't exist by morning. Inside was a 9-second video, filmed the previous night, of the sidewalk directly outside my apartment building. My building, my street number legible in the frame, my own porch light burning steady in the corner of the shot, like it was waiting for me to notice. Below the video, one line of text, typed in the same clean, procedural font as everything else on that site. Thank you for completing your evaluation. You'll make an excellent observer.